Okay, here we go. Season 2, The Hot Johnson. How we doing today, Johnson?
I'm excited.
What are you excited about?
Well, we haven't spoken on these microphones for how many weeks has it been?
It's been like 6, 7
weeks?
Something like that. I don't even remember. It's been a minute.
It has.
It's been a hot minute.
High five.
High five.
Hot Johnson, season 2, we back.
Back in action.
We back in action. And I'm happy. I'm stoked to be back. It felt nice to have a little break. Hopefully you guys had an amazing Christmas holiday, New Year's Eve. And it's kind of that time of the year where I think everybody's kind of getting back into the routine of life.
Yeah. I mean, some people, do you suffer from seasonal depression? Do you get that?
No, because I take adequate amounts of vitamin D.
Oh my God, she's a nutritionist.
Well, that's such a huge thing. If you're not supplementing with vitamin D, it literally shifts so much in how you feel mentally, emotionally, energetically. So that was a game changer for me. I used to. And then once I started supplementing with quality vitamin D, because there's crap supplements out there, it was a game changer.
Vitamin D or vitamin D?
Vitamin D. Both. Girl, we need both, honey. I need that dick and I need that vitamin D.
So, having sex and vitamin D cure for seasonal depression. Check. Got it.
You heard it here.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
How are you?
I'm so good.
Yeah.
6 days sober now, I think.
Okay.
Well, I mean, and I say that obviously because that's the topic of today, talking about relationship with alcohol and substance in general. But yeah, we just got back from our family trip to Mexico where we had copious amounts of booze. Mm-hmm. We didn't overdo it except for you. You overdid it one day. It was mostly the sun though.
Dude, like I
you
said,
got wiped out.
I'm pretty sure that I got sunstroke.
Yeah, for sure. I have a video of do you remember the video that I took of you?
No.
Don't worry. The internet will never see it.
Really?
Yeah, you were like fucking dead.
Really? Well, I believe it.
And you were like, please don't post that.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I remember that. I thought you meant out by the pool. We were back in the hotel room and Bron, I was literally throwing up, you guys, and a combination of sunstroke because I was an idiot and wasn't wearing my hat. And then we met these awesome chicks by the pool and they were like, let's do tequila shots. So like you're in Mexico.
Shout out to the California girls. They were cool.
They were super cool.
They were fun.
Until I got, sunstroked, wasted. Little PSA, if you are out in the sun without a hat, you get drunk a lot quicker.
A dirt.
Yeah, so we're back in the hotel and I'm throwing up and I see Bron videoing me.
I was not videotaping you while you were puking. I definitely wouldn't do that. You were in bed and you looked like you were gonna die. But you weren't puking while I was video.
Well, so I was like, don't freaking post that, you turkey.
We had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
There were drinks being flown and drank.
Flown down our gullets.
Yes, indeed. But yeah, we didn't overdo it except that one day.
Yeah.
And now we're back into the swing of things and I'm getting back onto the sober path, which is great. Mm-hmm. I was sober for 3 years from the beginning of 2020 to the end of 2022. So 34 months, just two months short of 3 years. And on my birthday that year, I decided that I wanted to introduce alcohol back into my life with the intention of being casual with it, because that was really always the intention when I quit. My ideal was to be able to be a casual drinker. And because I was able to not have a drink for so long, I thought I could do that successfully. And for the most part, I mean, it was good. Like in the sense that like I didn't slip back into the habit pattern that I was before I drank, which was like I was drinking a lot every day. So overall, over the past 2 years, I've been able to have a quote unquote casual relationship with it in the sense that I wasn't like flying off the handle or anything like that. I wasn't like really losing myself to it. However, as you know, for me anyway, when I'm in that cycle, I do want to drink every day, anywhere between 1, 2, 3, sometimes 4, but it's enough alcohol in my system to the point where I'm like a 7 out of 10 Bron Johnson, as opposed to sober Bron lifestyle. I'm rocking a 10 out of 10. So it's almost like, and when I'm in my cycle like that, I'm just not my full self. I'm just not my total self. And I'm so excited to get back to the sober path. I already feel like amazing.
Yeah.
And over those past 2 years, I think I tried to quit drinking again like 3 or 4 times. So if I'm being honest with myself, I like on hindsight, I realized that, oh yeah, no, I was trying to quit over the past 2 years, but I never got to a point where I went like full commitment to it. It was always like kind of a half-ass.
Yeah, maybe I'll quit.
Yeah, it was like, I am going to quit, but then I just found another excuse to have a drink, whether that's going out or some kind of event at a wedding or whatever. And then, like, I think so many people can relate, once you have that one drink, your mindset goes, okay, I'll allow myself to have another drink the next day or the next day. It just becomes so much more easy. And that's just been my pattern. It's such a, and I'm not my fullest self. And that's really why I'm choosing to quit again, is because I remember the 3 years of sobriety that I was on, and life was just so much better. It was so like, I was clear-minded. I was focused on business. I was so focused on serving people. And that's who I feel like I really am. So I'm quitting because I really want to get back to me. I want to get back to the real, authentic, full me. I'm excited, baby.
Yeah. Are you okay if we like backtrack and break it down a little bit?
Sure, yeah.
So
I just kind of like word vomited that, but yeah, for sure.
when you very first quit drinking the first time, you quit for 3 years. How old were you?
I was, so 2020 I would have been around 30. I just turned 32.
Okay, so you're 32 years old. What made you want to quit drinking back then?
I was drinking a lot. My addiction really started to spring up when I was working in the restaurant industry. I was working at a place called Tap and Barrel and Craft in Vancouver, and I found craft beer, and I discovered that I really, 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 really liked it.
Yeah.
And that passion for craft beer and food and wine and drink and the pairings of all of that stuff, all the different spirits, like I developed a passion for it, like a genuine passion. You know me, I've always said that if I wasn't in the wellness industry, I would want to be a food critic. So there's always been like a genuine passion for food and drink in general. But unfortunately, that passion turned into a bit of alcoholism where it was very slow.
Which I think is the case for a lot of people. You're in an environment where everybody is drinking. That's the lifestyle. And it creeps up on you.
Yeah,
it really, really can.
Yeah, it was like let me actually think. Yeah, it was about a 2.5 year process where like from the beginning to end, it was a very slow process of me developing an addiction to it. And for me, like to describe my addiction, when towards like the end, I would say the last like 9 to 12 months, I would like wake up and be like excited about my first beer. Like that started to become the first thoughts that I thought in the morning when I woke up. Like I'm excited to drink. And I remember the first time I actually tried to quit, I think I made it like 3 days. And on like the third, actually I actually remember it was 5 days. And on the 5th day, I was itching. And I acknowledged that, oh my God,
I got a problem.
Yeah, I have an itch.
Yeah.
And when you have that itch that you need to scratch, and if you don't, you feel like you're going to go fucking bananas. That's how I started to get. So, and that realization happened about 6 months before I actually quit in January of 2020.
Okay.
So in that 6 month period, my life wasn't doing the greatest at that time. I mean, I was doing some coaching. I was in the restaurant industry still. But I definitely wasn't where I needed to be. And I had this realization, my why for getting sober, other than the fact that I was realizing that I needed to quit because I was developing a genuine addiction to it.
Yeah.
I just acknowledged that I wasn't the man that I wanted to be. I was like, I'm not coaching on the level that I want to be coaching at. I'm not living the lifestyle that I really want to be living. I need to make a change. And it was actually my good friend now, Derek Mooney, who originally challenged me to get sober. because him and his girlfriend at the time were doing 100 days of sobriety. And long story short, through gritted teeth, when he challenged me to do it, I was like, oh, fuck, I need to do this. And so I did. And I think 10 days into the challenge, I went over to his house. He was doing a wellness podcast, the Aware One at the time. And I went over to his house and I was like, man, I think I'm going to go a year. And his jaw dropped.
Right.
His jaw dropped. He was like, man, we just decided that we were going to go a year too. And it was like, bang, let's do it.
Yeah.
And a year, I mean, honestly, like 3 months turned into like, I don't know if I'm ever going to go back to drinking just because.
After 3 months, that was your mindset?
Yeah. I mean, I went back and forth with it, as we all do with any kind of addiction. It's like the ideal is to be able to be casual with whatever our addiction is. Right. And that was always something in the back of my mind that I thought that I wanted. But yeah, I ended up going just short of 3 years, 34 months.
And you looked fucking amazing.
Thanks.
You looked so healthy. Like anybody who quits drinking alcohol is the epitome of life force.
Yeah, in a big way.
When you're not, like, let's just call it what it, like, alcohol is poison.
Yeah.
So when you're not consuming that, you just look, your body's able to.
And maybe you think differently about this, but I do want to say this, like, I don't want this episode to be like pro quitting drinking. Cause like, to me, I think who's ever listening to this, maybe you're struggling with a different addiction, whether that be nicotine, shopping, porn, gambling, like whatever your vice is. I think one of the biggest things to say is like, on one hand, we all have to quit and make a shift at our own time, right? Like
the thing that we're struggling with.
Yeah. Like it needs to be something that we decide to do on our own.
1,000%.
Right. As soon as someone like gets in our face, like this podcast, to someone who might be struggling with someone and says, you need to quit that.
No.
It's like immediately we get our backs up. So like, I want to be careful with the tone of how we're coming across. Like, I never want to be like pro quitting drinking. I want it to be like pro self-awareness. I want it to be pro self-assessment, to get fucking honest with ourselves about where we're really at. Because I think, sure, yes, we all need to do it at our own time. But I think like maybe what this podcast is going to do for someone, I hope, is going to challenge them to like look at themselves a little bit more deeply, not in a shame-based way, right? Like this, we're not here to like shame you for where you're at, but to just like compassionately take a look at yourself and say, yeah, how am I doing with that thing that I should probably either quit or be doing a lot less of?
I think it's also great to just have a really honest conversation about something that sometimes there's stigma around and something that a lot of people struggle with, whether it is alcohol or any kind of addiction, like Bron mentioned. And I think the Hot Johnson, this podcast, is never, ever, ever intended to be preachy or saying you should live your life a certain way. Because at the end of the day, we don't know who's listening right now and what's going on in your life and your circumstances. So this podcast, I don't think, is ever about telling you how to live your life. It's about sharing life experiences. You're sharing your life experience right now. And hopefully, people will take nuggets and things away from your shares that apply to them.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's been my journey in it in a nutshell. Do you feel like I kind of missed anything, or do you have any more questions?
Lots more questions, Bron.
Denai is becoming an elite counselor. She's ready to dig.
Well, I was also a radio host for 20 years where I interviewed people. So I think it's a normal transition into counseling because it's like a similar thing, right?
Can I give you some feedback?
Me right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're really good at it.
Oh, thanks. Well, I like hearing people's stories. I'm very curious.
You are. And I've said this on the podcast before, but like even in Mexico, when I saw you interact with people, like Denai Johnson is like I'm not even fucking kidding. I am not blowing an ounce of smoke right now. You are the best at interacting and connecting with strangers. I honestly don't think I've ever seen anybody do it better than you. You're so just like genuinely curious about people, and it comes across in such a like authentic way. It's so fucking cool to see.
Thanks. Yeah, it is authentic. I think we all have stories, and it's a really nice thing to have somebody be interested in your story.
Totally.
You know?
So what do you want to ask me?
Okay, so you quit for 3 years. How did you, because you said even in the 5th day, you're like itching. So how did you stick to 3 years?
Well, the itching was 6 months before that. I actually tried to quit.
So once you quit, you didn't have any like itch or like...
Good question. I remember the answer to this question. The first 3 months of those 3 years were the hardest.
Yeah.
The first 3 months were the hardest. I felt deprived. I felt like I was going through withdrawal. Bubblies helped me so much.
Oh, the drink,
Totally.
the carbonated
I discovered
beverage?
that such a big part of like why I enjoy drinking was actually drinking something carbonated. And that is true to this day. My fridge right now is full of bubblies because I love them.
And Le Croix.
Le Coin.
Le Coin.
Denai Le Coin.
I like that name for me.
Denai-
I don't want to be Denai Johnson anymore. I want to be Denai Lacroix.
All right. All right. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Straight up.
Denai Le Coin.
Yeah.
LaCroix. No.
No.
Okay.
I like it French. Please.
What's the question again?
Yeah. How did you go 3 years?
Yeah.
What was your strategy to stay off the sauce for 3 years?
The number one thing is basically what I already said. And this is something that I would say to anybody who is, wanting to make a shift. You need a why. You need a fucking why. You need something that is real for you, for the reason why for you. Can't be anybody else's reason. Has to be fucking for you. For me, honestly, it was my business. That was such a big part of it. It was about being the kind of man that can show up in the world and help people, because that's who I really am on a deep level, right? And you know me, what happened when I quit? I actually, right?
I've said this to Bron. I'm like, I saw such a huge difference and shift in you when you went from drinking to being sober.
Yeah.
Like in every way.
Yeah.
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 Do you want me to honestly tell you what I saw?
Yeah.
I saw you go from like being a boy to being a man.
Yeah. Well,
like,
yeah.
That's what it seemed like.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that was like, I don't know. I guess from my perspective, I see a man as someone who like owns the fuck out of his life.
Yeah.
And you were doing the hard things, and you went to school to like take business courses. You really stepped into your business. Yeah. You just really owned your life.
Yeah.
And I was like, it just felt like you went from like, we grew up as children and life is more about play and just going with the flow. And I think once we get into adulthood, whether you're a man or a woman, it is a little bit more about like owning your life and sometimes doing the hard things. And I saw you doing some really hard things. And as a result of that, building a life that felt a lot more true and in alignment. And you seemed a lot happier and more fulfilled.
I appreciate that. And it's accurate. I'll say something else to that though, because I've reflected a lot on how I showed up in my life all throughout my 20s and early 30s. And as you know, so much of my life was actually more about exploring spirituality and exploring what it means to live a quote unquote spiritual life in this modern day world. And through the teachings that I was most privy to, so much of it was actually about having fun and enjoying your life. And so that's what I was fucking doing. Yeah. Which ultimately, to your point, manifested in a big way as not taking life by the balls. Yeah. When we are living in our spiritual energy, we tend to be a little bit more flighty, a little bit more floaty, a little bit more, let's go with the flow and do whatever the fuck we want. Yeah. Right. And so as opposed to, stepping into my masculine, stepping into my grounded human energy and dealing with my fears around pursuing and growing the business that I wanted to grow, I was, for a lot of years, I was just enjoying my life. Yeah. Right. So yeah, call that being a boy. It's in a way, it's absolutely accurate. But it also does have a lot to do with me exploring a spiritual life.
Yeah.
Which might sound weird to a lot of people because that won't resonate to what they define as a spiritual life. But that was those were the teachings that I was privy to.
No, I get that. A lot of the spiritual community is about like, connecting with yourself and what feels good and what is playful. And as Bron said, like going with the flow. And I think for me, that has been part of my like if I get any ick with the spiritual community, I think it would be a little bit of that because I think there is definitely value and a very important component to those things to be playful and have fun and go with the flow. And I also think there's a lot of fulfillment and just self-respect that comes from like showing up, doing the hard things, following through, and not just always chasing that fun and that play.
Totally. But if you go on, sorry, I shouldn't say but, I should say, and if you go on the other side of the spectrum, it leads to burnout and taking life too seriously.
Yeah.
And not connecting to your emotions.
Yeah.
And living for external goals and circumstances and achievements as opposed to a balance of both.
Yeah.
The masculine and feminine, if you will.
Yeah.
Will you?
And it is funny because I feel like you pursued more of that feminine and I went more of the masculine.
Totally. Yeah.
And now we're kind of like finding that balance of both, I think.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Hot Johnson.
Okay, so while you were in that 3-year period of no booze, what was the hardest part for you?
Not drinking.
Like, I mean, though, like I think about that. If I were to quit drinking, I think the longest I've ever gone was like maybe 3 months, like weddings, birthday parties. Like, how do you navigate that shit?
I'm actually really happy that you brought this up because I would have forgotten to talk about this, is that moving forward on my sobriety journey now, in this moment, I actually am not scared of it, but leading up to, because I knew that I was going to quit at this time for the past few months. Like after we got back from Mexico, I knew that I wanted to start going back to the sober lifestyle. And the biggest fear that has come up, and this circles back to what you just asked, was so much of the reason why I was drinking so much is because I started to have this neural association with drinking and having fun. I would always say, if I'm having fun, I'm drinking. And if I'm drinking, I'm having fun.
I feel like I remember you saying that.
Totally.
Yeah.
But it was so accurate. Like and so moving forward, the question of, fuck, do I need to like relearn how to have fun without booze in my life? And right now in this moment, I'm happy to report that I'm feeling actually good about that. I feel like that I can move forward and be in social circumstances and enjoy my life and enjoy social circumstances without alcohol. To answer your question though, back in 2020, it was when COVID
You first quit,
which is when I first quit, but that's when COVID happened. So how many social gatherings were we having? Right. So
not many.
The majority of my sobriety, those first 3 years, there wasn't a lot of social circumstances happening. Right. So this time moving forward, I mean, I have close to 30 weddings booked for this season. I'm going to be involved in a lot of social.
Bron's a wedding officiant, in case y'all don't know.
I got a couple hypnosis gigs coming up too, like stage hypnosis gigs. Stay tuned for that. We have some things in the pipeline. Suffice to say, there's going to be a lot of social things happening, and the fear has been, can I still enjoy my life? Like really enjoy it without having one beer, you know? And I think that I think I can. I know I can. It's just about reprogramming myself to be back in alignment with me. Because when you're in alignment with you and you're your authentic self and you don't give a fuck about what anybody thinks and you just live your life to the fullest, you're happy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I hear you on that. And I think that's always been my thought around alcohol as well. And I think that's a challenge for a lot of people. It's like alcohol can make, this might not be like the politically or ideal way to talk about this, but I'm just going to be fully blunt and honest. Like, I feel like alcohol can make anything fun.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
literally anything, any conversation, any situation. Girl, we've all been on dates where it's been brutal. So you're like, yo, I'll have a 9 ounce of Pinot Gris, please, to make this more interesting.
Sure.
And the times in my life where I've cut out the booze as well, that's the area that I struggle with, is a lot of like social things that
Totally.
are maybe just not enjoyable without alcohol. But then it's also like, okay, so then is this a sign? Like if you don't enjoy it sober, then you maybe just don't enjoy this thing.
Oh, I was listening to a Mark Manson post. Sorry, did I cut you off?
A little bit.
Yeah, go ahead. Keep going.
Do I not enjoy this thing? Like maybe I just shouldn't be doing this then if I'm not enjoying it when I'm sober. But then it's also like, in my experience, a lot of the time, then there's a lot of things I don't enjoy. Like I honestly don't really love going to concerts unless I'm drinking, unless it's a small, intimate concert where I'm like really up close and I can see the artist. There's a lot of things our society does that unless alcohol is included, it's not that enjoyable. So part of me is like, is it me that doesn't enjoy a lot of these things? Or do you have to rewire? Is there another way that I can learn to enjoy a concert, for example? Am I not appreciating it enough?
I think it's a combination of both. What I was going to say before is I was just heard a Mark Manson post, because he quit drinking alcohol as well, the author of Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. He talks about exactly what you're saying. And I think that when you remove any kind of substance from your life, let's talk about drinking, you get to see what's underneath that. You get to see a little bit more of your authentic desire for life. And I know like what I can just on a personal level can speak to about that. For me, when I'm living a sober lifestyle, like I would say that 75 to 80% of my desire is to be focusing on serving people in my business.
Yeah.
Like that's what becomes the thing that I genuinely want to do, as opposed to when I'm drinking. I would say that number drops down from 75 to 80 to like a 50. And the other 50% is out doing fun shit.
Yeah.
And the fun shit that I would do in my non-sober life now, I mean, I'm straight up just like not going to be doing them anymore. And I'm totally okay with that, because I know how much more rich my life is when I'm doing the thing that my soul actually wants to do.
Totally. I think you and I are very similar in that. The times where I have quit drinking or gone periods where I wasn't drinking, it's a similar thing. It's like finding that thing in your life that really, and I think you and I have a lot of similar passions.
Yes.
But for you, as you're listening right now, it's like, what is that thing in your life that lights you up and gives you that deep soul fulfillment that doesn't require needing to be fucked up?
Yeah. Big question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is.
Big, important question for society at large. Oh my God. I mean, my heart really does have so much compassion for, the countless people who are either in denial that they're going through something, or do know that they're going through something, but they are either too ashamed of talking about it, or they don't feel like that they have a space to talk about it. So what do? They suffer in silence. Like it's sad.
Or being afraid to confront it. I think as you said about the whole what's his name?
Mark Manson.
Mark Manson. Once you remove alcohol, a lot of the times we're using these things as a way to self-soothe. So it's like once you remove them from your life, then all your shit is going to come up. For a lot of people, then maybe that is like social anxiety. We use it when we go out to like feel more, fun or attractive. I know I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of women who sexually, it's like their way of feeling more comfortable in their body and in the bedroom. And it can, increase libido, especially if you've been with a partner for a really long time. And it's like, it is going to remove all of these self-soothing things that then you're going to have to actually confront and deal with.
Yeah. I kind of want to talk a little. I feel like that's a bit of a good segue to talk a little bit about my experience in AA. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah.
Talk about that?
I do also want to make a pin to not forget and ask you, like, for you, what do you think why were you drinking? Like, what were you using it?
Honestly, I've thought about that a lot.
Yeah.
And I would say because I genuinely I think, let's put it like this. I was addicted to the sugar in it,
Yeah. Oh,
right?
yeah. That's a real thing.
I legitimately love the flavor of beer,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And the lifestyle, it was like a package deal for me. It was
Yeah.
like beer equaled going out with fun people and having fun times and eating, good food. And it was honestly like, I don't think I was using alcohol to really cover up something as much as I was doing it because I actually like had a passion around the lifestyle of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's not totally accurate.
Do you feel
It's kind of hard to put words to that because I either don't know the answer to that question. Like, I'll just be honest. Like, I either don't know the answer to that question, or the best of my awareness is what I just said. Like, I actually loved beer, and so I drank it.
Yeah, and then it becomes habitual, and alcohol is very addicting. So it's like your usage of it increases. It's a
Yeah.
slippery slope that I think anybody is potentially able to slide down.
Yeah, and like not only the flavor, but also the feeling, the buzz.
Yeah. My curiosity around that is like, there are different thoughts around addiction of any kind. Like Gabor Mate, of course, he talks oftentimes about like,
Right.
it being trauma,
Of course.
at the root of it.
Yes.
Bron and I just went to a AA meeting over the weekend, and they talk a little bit more about it being an allergy to alcohol.
A disease. Yep.
Yep. And then I think there is also the component of like, are you using it to self-soothe and cover stuff up as a way of managing your emotions? Are you chasing the high? And this is what I would think maybe with you is it's like chasing the high, the dopamine.
Yes. Well said. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's ultimately what addiction is all about. It's that short-term fix.
So which one do you feel is most?
I think it's all of them. Yeah. The dopamine high is absolutely a thing. And I'm glad that you said that because that is actually more accurate to, what does sugar give you? It gives you that dopamine high. The flavor of beer, the buzz from the alcohol that you do get. It's all related to that dopamine spike for sure.
Yeah. And I think it is really helpful and beneficial for anybody out there who is, using any kind of vice, if you choose to ask yourself, like, what am I getting out of this? Because that's like ultimately, if you want to, try to understand like why you're engaging with this thing, is it because it helps you feel more relaxed? Does it help you feel safe, more comfortable? Is it a dopamine high that it's giving you? Like, what are you getting out of this thing? For me, like with food, a lot of the time, like food helps me feel, it gives me the dopamine high, which both alcohol and food, like there's excitotoxins and there's a legit light up in your brain that happens. But it's also for me, a lot of the time, like food has been a friend.
Right.
Like the times where I've been burnt out, especially when I was working in radio and I was like socializing and talking so much that at the end of the day, I didn't want to fucking talk to anyone.
You just want a slice of pizza.
I just wanted to go home, be alone, and food was like my comfort.
Yeah.
So it's looking at like, what is this vice giving you? And is there a healthier way that you can get that need met?
Hell yeah.
So like for me, I really realized like in the past, I would isolate a lot and turn to food as a way of comforting. And I had to learn, and it's still a work in progress, of like instead reaching out to friends or family and like asking like, hey, can I talk? Can I vent? Do you need a hug? Like,
Yeah.
finding healthier ways of getting that need met. So yeah, for you, it's like, is there maybe healthier ways of getting that dopamine?
Again, it's going after my dream, baby.
Yeah.
It's doing the thing that I'm actually passionate about doing. Like when you pursue what's inside your heart, when we pursue what is actually fucking real for us inside our soul, whatever that is for you, we get the fix that we're actually looking for in the healthy way.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
And that for me, that's like serving people. Like the way in 2020, when I first got sober, how I built my business at the start, I led with one dominant question, which was, how may I serve?
Mm-hmm.
How may I serve? And that's what I'm leading with right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives me, Tony Robbins talks about the 6 human needs, right? And I believe it's the last, he says them in a list. And the last one is service, right? We all have a desire to serve. We also have a desire to create something of value in the world.
Yeah.
Whatever that is for you.
Yeah.
Everybody is different. Everybody has a different quote unquote calling. And for me, it's about helping people connect with the truth of who they really are and realize what they really want in life and how to create it in their life. That's been it for the past 18 years.
Totally.
Right? And obviously it's been a long and hard road towards that for myself. And alcohol is just a part of the story of what has hindered me from connecting with that higher path on the level that I really want to.
Yeah.
But that's the human journey. And I look at where I'm at now, and I look at my past, and I'm humbled, but I'm also in love, because I wouldn't be the man I am today without it.
Totally.
I used to feel a lot more shame, and I still do a little bit sometimes, but right now, I just hired a coach, a business coach, and she's freaking awesome. So I'm taking action steps to really level up my life in every single way right now. And I'm excited. In other words, I'm so focused on what I'm accomplishing and where I'm moving towards. I don't got time to look at the past, at all of the ways I've failed, to feel shitty about myself and my past. I'm excited to create and help people now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited for you.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, like when you speak to the shame, I think that's something that a lot of people can relate to when it comes to
100%.
drinking.
100%.
Can I ask you, like, for you, what is that shame all about?
I think for me, the shame is associated with not being further along in my career, not being at, not traveling all over the world and coaching and helping people. The shame story of my past, because it's not active in me right now because I'm doing it. I'm moving forward and it feels good. But yeah, the shame story throughout most of my life has been, I'm such a failure. I'm letting people down. I'm letting myself down. Who is this guy, Bron Johnson, who wants to be a life coach, and yet what is he doing? Why would I listen to Bron? That's been a big story that's been active within me in the past that has, it's a spiral. It's that's the shame spiral.
Yeah.
You tell yourself this story, it makes you feel shitty about yourself. And because you feel shitty about yourself, you don't want to take action. And because you don't take action, you feel shitty about yourself again. And it just goes around, around, and around. That was it for so many years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I've already said this to you before, like, I'm so proud of the person that you are. And as you just said, like all those life experiences that you've had, if you just lived like a quote unquote perfect life and did all the right things all the time, you wouldn't have any depth of wisdom. It's like going through those like struggles and those challenges that make us complex and give us actual real life wisdom, not just shit we read about in books. You can go to school and learn anything, but like to actually go through it and learn it, that's how you become like a wise, deep, soulful human.
True.
These are my favorite types of people
Totally.
who've been through the shit.
Totally. And if you're open to it, I'd love that to be a good, perhaps dominant segue into talking about our experience with AA. Denai came with me in support to the AA meeting the other day, and I don't know about you, but it was my first live AA meeting. I've shown up to other online meetings in support of other people before. And the one thing that I've noticed in my 3 times 2 being AA meetings, and this one this week was no different, was the level of courage and humility. Oh, the humility for people to show up and just talk about their fucking shit. You know, I will say this with a lot of confidence. Like, if anybody wants an example of what courage actually looks like, go into an AA meeting and listen to people talk about all of the dark stuff that they've been through and are ashamed of or were ashamed of, and the person that they are now because of that. Like, they're in a room full of, I mean, how many people were in there? There was like close to 30 plus. Yeah. Lots of people, all strangers, talking about really vulnerable shit that we don't talk about in society because that's just the norm. We don't talk about deep, dark things. Yeah. Right? So I loved seeing the courage and the humility in that room the other day. It was just so beautiful.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of going back to even what I was talking about, like the isolation. I think one of our core desires as humans is to have community and connection. And a lot of us struggle. I think they even talk about that in, I don't know if it's in AA, I'm not too sure. So give me some grace with this, but I think they say like the opposite of addiction is connection. Yep. Right? Is that what they say? Yep. And so it's, I think one thing that's like greatly lacking in our society, unless you are part of a organized religion and you go to church every week or you go to AA, like where are the groups and the gatherings of humans who come together where we authentically share and connect?
Keyword authentically. Yeah. Because I think it's one thing to be a part of a group that you don't really feel like you can be your true self in versus a community of people where you can feel like you can be your real self. That is like the fundamental difference of the healthy difference of what you're talking about.
Totally. And it's exactly what we talked about earlier. It's so normalized in society to go to weddings, parties, birthdays, and get fucked up. It's so not an authentic way of connecting with one another. And like AA in church and back when we were in our cult, probably the only places where you could show up sober, where people were really willing to be vulnerable and raw and real. And I don't know about everybody else listening, but like, that I think is a really deep craving and need that most of us have. And it's not normal in our society. We don't see it often enough. And so there's a big thing that is lacking in our lives for most of us. And so we do turn to these other forms of making us feel good, whether it's alcohol or whatnot.
Totally. I don't even think that a lot of people even realize that that's actually available, like that level of connection. You know, to people who've like never been to therapy, or people who have never, you know, weren't brought up in families or have had friends where they have heart to hearts. Like, I think a lot of relationships in the world are quite relatively surface level, egocentric and external validation based, rather than actually sitting and connecting as two humans who talk about deep, real shit. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was lovely. I mean, I've been to a few before as a support with other friends to AA meetings, and every time I go, I'm always like, I just want to come. Can I come every week and just hang out with you guys? Because I personally really, really crave and value deep connection, authentic connection like that, where people are just being blatantly fucking raw and real. And I just am so bored by our society's surface level chit chat that we do on the daily. Yeah. Like bored to tears. Yeah. So it makes, as we were sitting there, I was like, my mentality is always like, okay, like if there's not enough of these groups around that are already present, like maybe I should start something because there needs to be more of this.
Yeah, for sure.
So I was like, we need to just start some kind of
for sure.
Women's. When I was in Vancouver, I kind of started doing a women's circle. I don't know. Something's got to happen. We need more of this.
Sounds like we need to have a deeper conversation about what you need to start.
A hot Johnson hang. Ooh. The hot Johnson hang. You guys want to come to the hot Johnson hang every week?
Where we fucking talk about shit that's real.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah. Can you take me higher? I've been listening to a lot of
what? Creed?
Is that Creed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were going to say Nickelback?
No, I was, I
Theory of a
forget
Dead
why,
Man?
I forget why I started listening to that music over the past week.
Oh, God.
I've also been listening to Lips of an Angel by Hinder.
Oh my God, that is the worst song ever.
Sounds so sweet.
Wow, sober Bron has horrible taste in
I'm
music.
sorry. Well, actually, that's fucking not true, and you know it's not true. I have a very wide palette of music that is all fucking awesome.
So what did you get out of your AA experience?
What did I get of my AA experience?
See.
Well, something that I've already expressed to you is that the reason why I went was actually less because I felt I needed to. Like the 3 years that I did quit drinking, I didn't go to AA for that. I quit on my own through my own support group, through Derek and
Your buddy.
Yep. And a couple of other people that I felt like were there, but he was definitely the biggest one. Shout out D. I went this time because it was more of a logical move that I wanted to take an action step that mirrored my goal of staying sober. So I thought in my mind, like, okay, Bron, like if you actually want to stay sober and that's real, go to a fucking AA meeting and show up for yourself in that way.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that I can and will do it with or without it. But that's why I went. And so when you and I went, like I've experienced the first 2 times that I went in support of the other people online in the past to AA meetings, just like the sheer humility of the people. I have so much fucking respect for anybody who steps into an AA meeting because what it means is that you're actually getting real with yourself. So to step into a meeting with like almost 40 people who are all there because they recognize that they need to make a life change for themselves is such a beautiful place to be in. So like you, I would say that that's probably like the biggest thing that I got out of it was just to be surrounded by people who I was like, damn, like I fucking respect each and every single person in this room.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like a lot of value and a lot of beauty in itself. As you know, our experience was mainly about hearing people share their stories, which was really beautiful and again, humbling and just filled me with so much respect for these people that were so willing to talk very openly about the shit that they've done and the pain of their past and those that they've hurt through their addiction. As far as did I get anything out of it for my journey? The answer is no, because to be honest with you, I feel fucking solid with this path. I've done it before. My brain, my heart, my body knows what it's like to actually commit to a sober lifestyle. So, you know, if anyone were to ask me, are you going to go back? My answer would be the only way I will go back is if I have another drink. And I will go back. If I have another drink and that is, I have enough humility and self-honesty to say, okay, yeah, I actually need AA.
Mm-hmm.
Like I need it. But right now I feel extremely confident, in my ability to stay sober,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that was really lovely that was brought up in the meeting was a conversation around how alcoholism, anybody can struggle with it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I think, you know, it was brought up in the meeting, like, you know, there's been like presidents and mayors and it's like
Doctors, lawyers,
literally
for sure.
everyone and anyone.
Alcoholism doesn't discriminate.
No, it doesn't. And I actually, because Bron and I knew we were going to be talking about this, I was like, okay, I have a couple of girlfriends who went sober over the last number of years.
Yeah.
And I continually had this book that they recommended called Quit Like a Woman. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No.
So I started listening to it over the last couple of days, and I actually really appreciated a lot of her perspective in this book. And her perspective is actually quite different than a lot of the other perspectives that I feel are in the mainstream. Her whole thought is more or less that like we have just normalized alcohol intake so much, but that And she actually goes as far to say in the book, like, she doesn't like the term alcoholic because she feels like almost everyone can struggle with alcohol.
Right.
It's like, yes, there are different
Yeah.
like scales of struggle for sure, depending on like, you know, trauma, genetics, environment. But like, I think as you started this podcast by saying it's like, you're a better Bron when you're not drinking. I'm a better Denai when I'm not drinking. I think the reality is like, it is a poison, and we are all a lot better mentally, emotionally, physically. Like if you want to quit, listen to that book, because she does a pretty great job of outlining how it's really not great for any of us.
Right.
And so her whole thought is like, we need to kind of take away this term of like alcoholic, because it creates all this. For a lot of people, it is helpful, but for a lot of people, it also then gives you this lifelong identity and label as being this like person who's in the minority. And then there's like in AA, they say there's normies, like people who can drink are normies.
Right.
So then you go your whole life feeling like, well, I'm an alcoholic.
Right.
Where like in the book, she talks about how no, it's just like literally anyone can become addicted. It is very addicting. It's very common for it to be a gradual progression into drinking more and more. And it was fascinating, even in my counseling school, going through addiction class, learning about kind of the biochemistry of what happens to us when we drink or do different drugs, and how when we consume these things, because they do, you know, they bump up the amount of serotonin and dopamine, all these happy hormones. When you're consuming alcohol or any drug, your body is like producing extra amounts of these happy hormones. So then your body stops producing as much dopamine and serotonin naturally, so that when you stop taking the alcohol or the drug, now you're feeling really, this is why people feel more depressed and more anxious when they're not consuming that thing, because now your body is not making as much of it naturally.
Right.
And this is why we get hooked and addicted. And I don't think anyone is really like that is the biochemistry of what happens to all of us.
Yeah.
You know? So like, I think if a lot of people were really honest, a lot more people struggle. And she talks a lot in the book about like, okay, what is the definition of like alcoholism? Like, how do you know if you are an alcoholic? It's highly recommend listening to it. It's a really compelling conversation.
Quit Like a Woman.
Quit Like a Woman.
The Radical Choice to Not Drink in a Culture Obsessed with Alcohol by Holly Whitaker.
Yeah.
8.8 thousand reviews on Audible.
Yeah.
4.4 stars. Looks like a goodie.
I'm only 3 chapters in, but I'm like, yeah, it's a great, very compelling argument. And I could see for a lot of people who do feel the shame and the stigma, how after listening to that, you'd be like, no, I'm actually just reclaiming my fucking life and feel more empowered instead of having the shame and the stigma around like, oh, I got a problem. I'm fucked up. I'm an alcoholic.
Amen.
You know?
Yeah.
Amen.
Amen.
Praise the Lord.
Should we say what that's off of so people don't think we're fucked up?
Yeah. What was that documentary on Netflix? Dancing with the Devil?
Yeah. Dancing. Yeah. Yeah. It was like a cult led by this fucking evil man who at one point in the documentary like spat off a word salad thing and ended it with praise the Lord. Amen.
Amen. So now Bron and I just always say praise the Lord. Amen. All the time.
Ick.
Anyways.
Ick, motherfucker. Do you want to share anything about, we're at about 55 minutes here. Do you want to share anything about your relationship, or should we?
I think we've already chatted almost an hour. I think one thing, since we're just focusing on you, and we could do that maybe in another episode. But I would love to hear from you. So you quit for 3 years. What was the thing? What was the reason why you started drinking again after 3 years?
I wanted to introduce it back into my life in a casual way and see if I could do that. And I honestly believed that I was going to be able to. And I did for the most part, in the sense that like it didn't ruin my life. Like I'm not a blackout drinker. I'm not someone who like flies off the handle and, doesn't know what they did the next morning when they wake up. But it has enough negative effect on my life that I just realized that I'm a better person without it. Like, yeah, I ideally it would be great if I could drink like once a week. But the truth is that when I start, I don't want to.
Yeah.
I do want to have 1, 2, maybe 3 beers a day. But that's enough for me to feel less than the man that I really want to be. And that's just it.
Yeah, well, I think once again, she talks in that book about how it takes, I think she said 3 to 4 days for alcohol to fully detox out of your body. And so it's like, even if you do only drink once a week, like I know, you know, if I'm being fully honest, that's the one area of my life. You know me, I'm a health nut pretty through and through.
Yeah.
But that is the one thing in my life that I know is not adding to my health and my well-being. And I feel it. It's like, you know, she talks in that book about how much it interferes with your sleep. Like you're not getting the deep REM sleep when you're drinking, and it messes with your blood sugar and your hormones. And it's like you said, you know, drinking I think is such a spectrum, and it's like, and she talks in that book why for a lot of people we normalize it because it's like for you, yeah, you weren't destroying your life. You weren't like, nothing really bad was happening in your life.
Nothing dramatically bad, no.
No, you're just choosing to recognize that you're a better person without it. And I think you are like most people, but the difference is you're choosing to recognize that you want to live a more vibrant, aligned life. And so you see that it is the thing that is standing in the way of being the person and living the life that you want.
For sure.
Yeah.
So does this mean that you're going to quit drinking too now?
I think about it a lot.
Maybe you should.
I do.
You have a brother and a boyfriend who are both sober. I mean, why wouldn't you?
It's true. A lot of my friends now don't drink as well.
I know, me too. It's funny because when I went sober, pretty much all of my friends were, or I wouldn't say friends, but in my social circle, none of them were sober.
Yeah.
And in this past 2 years, all of them got sober.
I know.
And so now I'm just surrounded by a bunch of sober people, which is great.
It is good. Yeah. Yeah. I think you and I are very similar. I'm like, I don't like crave alcohol. It's not like I wouldn't mind giving up all the hard booze. It's like, it's a red glass of wine. Like, I just love the taste of it.
Well, it's something that it sounds like all of us, and maybe this is a great way to cap this episode. Like all of us, we're all on a self-discovery journey of our relationship to substance. So I don't think it's about coming up with a right answer.
Yeah.
It's coming up with an honest answer for you now.
Totally.
But in order to do that, you need to get fucking real and vulnerable with yourself and do some self-reflection and ask yourself, what do you really want out of life? And if the thing that you're addicted to is hindering your productivity towards getting that thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And that is where, you know, I'm being really honest with myself. You know, I think in the past I have been very regimented at times with like food and stuff like that. Whereas like this point in my life, I am being a little bit more just trying to enjoy. Like I'm more in that feminine now, where I am more in the enjoyment, but I do see alcohol is not, it doesn't, aside from enjoying the taste of it and a little bit of the feeling of it, I know that it doesn't add to my life. I go to the gym. I live a much more healthier, vibrant life. I have more energy, better mood. So it's like, why do we keep this thing?
Maybe you should do a 30-day trial without it. And I don't think that would be too hard for you because I feel like you, in my experience of you don't drink a lot.
No.
But maybe that's something you should consider.
I have done it multiple times in the past, and hands down, I feel way better without it.
Yeah.
way, way better. But now the difference is now I'm socializing a lot more than I did in the past. So in the past, it was a lot easier for me to quit because I was more focused on my career, working out. Whereas now, for me, I recognize that is the challenge. It's like doing social stuff that maybe isn't actually that enjoyable sometimes. And I rely on booze. It's also, I find it helps with energy. But then these are things, once again, we need to look at. It's like, why is your energy low? Well, I probably need to work on my blood sugar and go see my naturopath. My iron's low. Like your libido's low. Go look at your hormones. There's always stuff that we can address when we remove these substances.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Sounds like some more self-assessment is in order for all of us.
Indeed.
These are the
Denays
Denays
of our lives.
Thanks for listening, everybody. And actually, I kind of want to throw out that challenge to the listeners. I challenge you to do a 30-day no alcohol or no substance challenge. Whatever your vice is, go 30 days without it. You know, what do you have to lose?
And let us know what comes up for you.
Yeah.
What is the thing that you struggle with? Like, what do you think it's providing for you?
Yeah.
And when you take it away, what's underneath it? Because that's the shit that needs to be worked on.
What comes up for you when you take it away? What's underneath?
Yeah.
Is that what you said? Yeah.
Yeah. And journal about it. Actually sit with yourself and just like, whoa, what are these feelings that are coming up in my body? What are these thoughts? And journal about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for all of the inquiry. And I'm excited about the future. And stay tuned, listeners, for our following week. We will be with you next Monday. I guess it'll be in March. Yes, it'll be in March.
And I'm excited are you guys excited for Bron 2.0? He's going to be coming through to these episodes, just like coming in hot.
You can call me Juicy J from now on if you'd like.
Okay. Juicy J and Denai Lacroix will be back next week. Bye.
All of our love, guys. Peace out.